This is SpeakEasy, the podcast where I talk to our guests about their beverage of choice and lessons learned from lives lived in the marketing trenches. I'm Doug Stanley-Hunt, founder of Catalysis, a digital marketing agency here in Seattle, and your host and bartender here in the Cloakroom, the hidden bar in the basement of our home in a 100-year-old former church. In this episode, we're here with Ben Wan, founder of Hudson Compost. He has a wealth of information about startup marketing, word-of-mouth customer research, pricing, and some interesting guerrilla marketing campaigns, which included chasing garbage trucks and pulling all-nighters in preparation for Halloween. He also knows the cheapest drink at the most expensive bar in Hudson Yards. So let's go learn something. So welcome, Ben. First, let's start with your cocktail of choice. What do you prefer?
Well, first, thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
I'm going to have to ask for a bee's knees.
A bee's knees.
If that's possible.
All right, bee's knees. Simple. It's gin. Do you want to talk about why? It's gin, lemon juice, honey, and a twist.
Yeah. So I started first loving a bee's knees my first year of living in New York post-grad. And it was because I had an apartment in a very bougie area of New York because it was post-COVID and we had a crazy deal on rent. We lived next to the highest rooftop bar in New York City. But of course we couldn't really afford to go there. So I went with my roommate. And the cheapest drink at that bar was the bee's knees.
The bee's knees.
So that's what I ended up.
So it's a cost-effective drink, as well as, and it's shaken, which is always fun, as well as mighty delicious. It's got the gin with the floral and herbals. It's got the honey to complement that. And it's got the sour from fresh lemon juice, because we always use fresh juices here in the cloakroom.
Always fresh.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how you got into your business, because one, as an entrepreneur, you're sort of chief cook and bottle washer, but I also want to talk about what you learned as the chief marketing officer as well.
Yeah. Well, should we share it first?
Yes. So here.
Oh,
or you can have board that way. Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, that tastes like morning.
Great job.
I know. Isn't it good?
Here we go.
Thank you. So let's talk about, you started your company while you were at the Iovine and Young Academy?
Yes.
Do you want to talk about the Iovine and Young Academy briefly?
Sure. Yeah. So when I was still in high school, I was looking specifically at engineering programs and wasn't really sure what I wanted to make of college because I loved physics and science, but sticking straight to only math and science felt a little bit limiting to me. And so most of the schools I applied to, I was applying for mechanical engineering, but I was also looking at minors in design or minors in business that I could do collaborative programs. And ultimately I found out about the program because at my high school, they had a small event for USC where they showed majors, and so a rep came and talked to us. And there was this really, really long major that was the Arts, Technology, and Business of Innovation on this list of probably 100 majors. And so I just asked the rep, oh, what's this major? And she was like, oh, it's a new program. I actually have no idea what it's about. And so I had to do a little bit of follow-up, but I realized that learned it was a really interesting program that had just been started by Jimmy Iovine and Dr. Dre. And they had donated...
Andre Young.
Yeah, Andre Young. And they donated a lot of money to USC in order to start the program. And they were looking to create a combination of technology, design, and the arts all in one. And so...
Was it the tagline, to solve the world's problems?
It might have been.
I think it was. Right. Okay.
But yeah, so I ended up applying. It was a very unique application process where we had to put together a 1-minute pitch video for an idea that we had.
So entrepreneurial as well.
Yeah, definitely. And we also had to put a creative portfolio together. And ultimately I had to go out in, I think it was like February of my senior year and do a interview, which was one of the most intense interviews I've ever done.
Okay.
I walked into the room and they didn't tell you anything that was going to happen. And it was 11 deans and professors on one side of a table. Ooh. And then I was on the other side of the table, 17-year-old Ben.
Bitch meeting.
Exactly. Yeah. I was in a swivel chair trying to answer everyone's questions for about, I think it was 20 or 30 minutes.
Oh my God. Well, you got in and you went through it. So that's amazing.
And it was great.
So while you were there, you started your company because you saw a market opportunity, or what was it?
Yeah. So it was my sophomore year summer. I was back in New York working at home at a pizza shop, actually. And I realized that a lot of the families that I grew up with, I grew up in a really environmentally conscious town. They had stopped composting, even though my whole upbringing, they composted. Whether it was driving it to a drop-off site or bringing it to just their backyard and composting at home. They'd stop doing it when all their kids went to college. And I was like,
Oh, the guilt was
terrible.
Yeah.
You got to keep doing it. Right? I was like, this is what I grew up on. These are the morals that were instilled in me. And so I asked them, they said, oh, it's just too much of a pain. We don't know what we're doing. We have raccoons and rats in the backyard. And so I asked them if I could find someone to come pick it up from them. Would they be interested in that? And they said, absolutely. And so I put together a group of about 15 different families. And I also pulled on 2 existing high schoolers because I knew I had to go back to USC at the end of the summer. And we started a little project, and we were just picking up compost from people's homes for the first month completely for free, just to validate the idea. And then at the end of that month, which was September 2019, we launched the program and said, we're going to be offering memberships. If anyone wants to continue, it's going to be $20 a month. And that was our start.
And that's interesting because what you did there, if I think about it in terms of traditional product development and marketing, you did some initial market research based on a perceived need in the marketplace. You followed up with some thinking about what would the service be that would meet that need. And then you worked with some pilot people to find out how it would land. And then you did your pricing model, essentially, I'm assuming. I'm maybe giving it a lot of MBA type terminology.
A little bit, but yeah, I totally agree.
And do the motions that are prescribed, which is amazing. So here we are, however many years later, and 6 years later, I think, and you have grown. You've grown a lot. Want to talk about that and how?
Yeah. So we started as a side project, and then I decided to go full time in 2021 after I graduated. And that summer was pivotal. We needed to turn it from a small project into a real business. And so our first form of marketing that we got the most amount of traction from, and we were lucky that we were this successful with it, was that summer of 2021, we went to a farmer's market every single week. And it was probably multiple farmers markets. We were going to all the local towns, and we were trying to find who were our customer at the beginning. And we knew that obviously environmentalists, but where do we find them?
And so you had a hypothesis that you then went out and did some field research to validate.
And it worked great. We added 150 members in about 3 or 4 months of doing it. And we went from having 15 members in 2019 to slow growth up to 50. And then all of a sudden we kind of started taking off.
At $20 a month?
So the pricing changed a little bit, which I can go into, but we realized the key thing with the pricing was we could lock people in for a year. And we are completely bootstrapped. And so how are we going to fund getting a truck and getting a storage space and getting all the inventory? And so we decided very quickly after offering $20 a month, let's offer 3-month contracts and 6-month contracts and then annual contracts. And the annual contracts is what ultimately gave us our own little
seed
in order to get off the ground and purchase the things we need from a capital expenditure.
To
get everything going.
So in terms of branding, did you find you needed to, I mean, nowadays it's easy to get a branded anything, but did you find you needed to do branding very early on, or how did you approach that?
Back when we started, I feel that branding for us was really about trying to get something that was super straightforward and understandable. And I think that's most small businesses. It's not about having the one word, like, what does this mean? It's more of just like, this is what we do. And so we originally went by Hudson Compost Services.
It's funny because it's the KISS, keep it simple, stupid. I mean, that's like, so old school,
Yeah.
but it still works.
Yeah, exactly. And so we didn't want to do anything fancy with the name. We wanted to make it so people understood what we did right away. And so we were Hudson Compost Services. And that's how we started. And we eventually transitioned to just doing Hudson Compost as we became more of a household name in Westchester. But yeah, I think for that beginning with just going to farmers markets and having conversations and learning what are people's wants and needs and what do we need to either add to the service or what don't we need to add to the service we can take away, and making it as distilled as possible.
Okay, so product development is one side of it. And then go back to brand. How did you extend your brand to get more customers? Did it fall in your lap, or was it a lot of hard work?
I'd say every single customer that we had for the first 2 years, we at least had a 5-minute conversation with them. There were very few people that just signed up by themselves. And even if they signed up and we didn't know who they were, we would reach out to them. And we would say, how did you hear about us? Or how can we help you? How's your first week going? Is there anything else that we can do for you? And it was super catered because we didn't have product market fit. We were just trying to figure out, like, what should we be providing these customers?
Yeah.
So the first 50 customers, when we had no marketing, no brand, basically, it was just the 50 customers that we had. And I'd say those customers were all within Hastings. And then when we expanded that summer that I went full time, we decided to open it up to the surrounding towns. And it was Dobbs Ferry, Irvington, and Tarrytown. And yeah, as we progressed, I think, those conversations were so essential.
In Dobbs Ferry and Irvington.
Yeah, so we went to all those farmers
markets again. Okay, so your primary selling vehicle was farmers markets. How about word of mouth? Because I think one of the things that was very good for us at Catalysis is we got lucky with our first few projects, but then customers saw it and said, oh, I want that. Oh, I want that. And so word of mouth marketing was very successful for us when we were bootstrapping. How about for you?
Absolutely. Word of mouth marketing for us was pivotal, but we had to reach a certain critical mass. And the reason that we realized, or what ultimately started pushing that word of mouth marketing, was our bins being left out on the curb once a week, every week. And so certain neighborhoods, we realized, once we had 1 or 2 customers, they would all of a sudden quickly jump up to 5 or 6.
So you use your bins as a marketing vehicle. Did you put a website on them?
And so we had a sticker with a website. We had a nice little tagline. It said who this bin belonged to. It also said our pricing was less than $1 a day. And so there were all these little things on the bin that we tried to add, because we realized in the how did you hear about us question on the sign-up form, I think it was over 35% of people said they heard about us from the bin.
So being in people's faces.
Yes. And those neighbors.
And neighbors that they trusted.
Yeah.
It was community-based.
Exactly.
So community-based marketing and being very clear about your offering and getting the name and an easy access model for signing up.
Yeah.
Did you do anything else like for non-customers, any kind of guerrilla marketing activities early on?
Yeah. So we, as I think most small businesses try to do at some point, did door-to-door marketing a little bit. But being from the neighborhood that I grew up in, we didn't have too many door-to-door marketers coming when I was a kid up to my house. And so we did it, but people didn't like it. It wasn't the best idea.
Privacy.
Yeah, exactly. And so we had to transition a little bit.
It's like front door spam.
Yeah, yeah. And we were always like, what time is best to go? It's like if we go at dinner time, they're pissed. We're knocking on their door at dinner, but if you go a different time, they're not there.
Yeah.
So we transitioned away from door-to-door marketing and started to do another classic business strategy, which was everyday direct mail. And so through USPS, we tried to just get more awareness. Once we had a little bit of money in the bank, we said, okay, let's put $1,000 toward this. Let's make some really nice, compelling flyers, and send them out and see how does that affect our web traffic? How are people talking about us? And does it increase the amount of trial members that we're getting to sign up?
Okay, and did it?
And it did. It definitely did. And that was one of the things that worked out pretty well in terms of getting web traffic. But the thing that was missing was it wasn't necessarily turning into conversions as much as we hoped.
Okay.
And so just last year, we decided to put a decent amount of money, a true dedicated marketing budget. We had about $10,000 to spend over the course of 2 months.
Oh, wow.
And we wanted to see if we went about doing maybe 5 or 6 different channels, from everyday direct marketing, paying for farmers markets as we have in the past, doing things like getting Little League sponsorships. It was a handful of things. How does that start to convert? And we realized that a lot of the marketing we did, even if we had those specific things on the "how did you hear about us" question, people were still selecting friends, neighbors
as their primary,
and seeing the bin on the curb.
Wow.
And so we realized that we could try to do all this direct marketing to get people to sign up passively without having that conversation. But ultimately, it was our members that were closing the deal.
Sure. But I think that you were creating awareness, which is necessary. Often you create the awareness and then you have something or someone that can close the deal. You're priming the pipeline for your sales channel.
Yeah. And even at the small level that we were at, with only a couple hundred members, and we were just in my hometown and the surrounding town,
right,
you still need to do that priming.
Yeah.
And it was essential, because when people came up to us at the farmer's market, the highest likelihood that they were going to sign up is if they already heard about us.
They'd heard about you.
And so we had plenty of people come up and just say, like, "Oh, I heard about you. Perfect. You're here. I'll sign up right now."
So any fun things that you did? Because now you're in 7 towns and almost 1,000.
12 towns.
12 towns and almost 1,000 subscribers.
Yes.
Which is amazing, because if you think about that as a sustained revenue model, it's coming in unless their credit cards fail or however. So anything fun that you've done that you think that you would be proud of talking about? Any all-nighters? What?
Yeah. There's one crazy all-nighter that we had where, exactly to the point that I was talking about before, we realized we needed to really instill those kind of community, like, trust tactics. And so we realized the bins were great. People would put them on their curb once a week. If you walked around on that day of the week that we were collecting in a certain area, there was a crazy amount of visibility.
Yeah.
But how about the other 6 days of the week? And so we designed some yard signs. There are these tiny little yard signs, just like security signs, because we didn't want to be too like advertising,
like an election, running for mayor.
Exactly. And so these were much smaller. They're only about 8 inches across. And we texted every single one of our members. And we asked them, "Hey, we have this cute little sign. We'd love to put it outside your yard if you're okay with that." And it said, "Our home wastes less." And it didn't even have "sign up for Hudson Compost. This is our pricing." It just had "our Hudson Compost bin" in the middle. And it was a way for our members to say that they were a part of something without forcing a brand or a company.
So creating a community of users, or recognition.
Yeah.
And a humble brag.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so the execution of getting that out was a little bit crazy. We had a supplier that we were buying all the signs from and ended up coming late. And we realized that it would be such a great opportunity to have these signs up and present for Halloween, being such a community.
Yeah, everybody walks around.
Everyone's walking around, and kids are a great
motivator.
And so we decided that we needed to have all these yard signs up before Halloween happened, and they didn't come in until the Thursday before Halloween. And Halloween's on a Friday.
Yeah, right.
So we got them. We had dinner. We loaded everything into the truck at 8 o'clock, and we were putting yard signs out in
12 towns.
12 towns until 6 a.m. in the morning.
Wow. But you made it.
And we made it. And there was a little help from some coffee and Red Bull.
Okay, so that's a couple of weeks ago. Have you seen any increased signups from that since then? Or have you seen any other benefits?
So there were a couple signups from it. But the biggest benefit is realizing that your customers are incredible to market to, but there's always more people to market to than your customers. And so most recently we had someone who is in an adjacent industry who we were thinking about partnering with and trying to offer maybe their services or work with them in some way.
Yeah.
We were having a conversation with them just over email, and they're like, "Oh, we saw your signs and loved the design," and it was just.
And were they a local company that you knew about?
They're a national company.
They're a national company.
Crazy.
Who happened to be in
the area, and of all the things that they saw, they said, "Oh yeah, we saw your signs. We even took a photo of it."
So broader business ideas. So your good marketing ideas are having an impact beyond just your company, which is pretty amazing.
And it was very lucky, obviously, for this to happen. But I think it goes to show when you put in the crazy hours, sometimes it just, the dice rolling your way.
So you have a channel to home or from home, I guess I would say. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Because that's something like, look at Amazon. They're all subcontractors and they're always dropping things off. And you're not a municipal trash company. You're a subscriber-based, profitable service from doing pickups. So anything that you have done otherwise, marketing-wise, that seemed kind of after the fact, but ahead of the time, not. I mean,
I think the biggest thing that we realized in the past couple of years, for a while, I had the sentiment of we're such a local business, we're so small. Instagram and Facebook marketing isn't going to work that well. We did a little bit of it. We didn't put enough time into it, and it did not get any results. Okay. But what we realized is if we do a good job and invest time and resources into making Instagram and local content, it has such a high effectiveness rate for these small towns in terms of cost per impression.
Okay.
And we didn't ultimately realize it because I think we had some bad ads to begin with. But then we finally spent some time. I borrowed a friend's pair of Meta glasses, and we made a POV video of the route.
Okay.
And so we were driving around, showing people what is actually being done, picking up the compost.
The whole chain.
Exactly. And really showing what the service is that you'd be signing up for.
Okay.
And that video did incredible. We had about a month campaign where we were putting $20 around, on average, $20 a day. And we got 1,000 visits to the website and 20,000 impressions.
Wow.
And that was from a $600 campaign.
That's pretty amazing.
And so I think there is a lot of opportunity where if you're a small business, where a lot of small businesses aren't doing that.
Yeah.
And so even if you put a little time into making a high quality video and you spend some dollars on Meta ads or whatever else social platform, there is opportunity there.
And so, and what I'm also hearing from you is it's hyper local marketing, knowing your audience, knowing your community, and then growing it from there. So have you found, as you've moved into new communities, you've discerned quirks that are specific to the other communities that you're working in?
Yeah, I think it's a combination. I think we've expanded in chunks. So we've had probably 4 different time periods where we've added different service areas. And I'd say within that batch, we've definitely tested different things, spending a little bit more on our members in one area or spending a little bit more on just brand awareness. But I would say ultimately trying to build the best model for expansion, kind of a one-size-fits-all for these towns, at least within Westchester, is the goal. Because then we understand, okay, if we get an SBA loan for $20,000 this fall, what can we see in returns? And we know we have some type of model for expansion.
Also, that model, have you thought about taking that model and leveraging it for other products and services, or helping out other small composting businesses else that you would never compete with, say in Arizona or Colorado?
Yeah, most definitely. I think one of the best resources that I was lucky enough to run across was the Community Compost Coalition. And it's this group of over 100 small compost haulers in the U.S. And there's this forum online where people are constantly asking questions and talking about their experiences and answering, what truck did you buy this year? And when you're at this scale, how did you do XYZ? And I think building that community is really, really essential for trying to figure out what works in different places.
And so creating and sharing best practices. Yeah.
And
so I want to just talk, I'm pulling this up because you told me of a campaign that was hyper local with Post-it notes. And I think you should share that because it sounded not very expensive other than labor and was it effective? Talk about that.
Definitely. So last fall, we were brainstorming, and I haven't even mentioned him, but my partner right now is Jude. He was a co-founder of the business that was gone for a few years in college and then came back.
Same thing.
And so we were brainstorming and trying to figure out what can we do to get people where they're thinking about trash. It's a very
traction when they're in the headspace.
Yes, because we know who we're trying to attract, but how can we try to get the specific market exactly in their headspace when they're thinking about something that they could sign up for. And so we realized there are only a few times where we're really consciously thinking about trash. And one of those moments throughout the week is when you have to put your trash out. And in Westchester, everyone has to take their 64-gallon bin and bring it to the curb every week to get picked up. And so we realized there's a small window where we could do marketing, and we played around with trying to figure out how to do marketing on that. But we realized that if we just printed out Post-it notes, and we made these oversized Post-it notes, we could put a little bit of a, I'd say, sassy ad saying, "Wow, that's a lot of trash. Have you thought about composting?" So we basically went around for 2 weeks, and in every single town that we had services that we offered, we put a Post-it note right after the trash truck picked up the trash.
You were in an ambulance chaser. We
were a garbage truck chaser. And so we were staying just far enough behind where they weren't really noticing, but we were slapping a Post-it note on every single house. We handed out like 3,000 or 4,000 Post-it notes.
Wow.
In specific areas that we deemed were our target market.
Yeah.
And we got plenty of buzz from it. One town called us and said, "You're definitely not allowed to do this," so we had to stop doing it there. But the other towns didn't mind, which is great.
Wow.
I think that along with that was one of the...
So one, it was brand awareness, but two, did it lead to signups?
Yeah, definitely. And people reached out to us and they were like, "I got this thing on my trash can. Like, who are you guys?" And it was funny.
Funny. I mean, here in Seattle, you could do that. Well, I think all the bins are owned by, well, we have compost pickup, but I know towns like Port Townsend where they don't have compost, but you can go to a smaller bin. And so you could save money, and it's a win-win.
Exactly.
If you paid us to pick up your compost, you'd save money on your bin. And, it's interesting because some of these things we've done over the years with some big companies too. But it sounds like knowing your community, doing the market research, putting things out there that you can test and fail fast, that are not prohibitively expensive. You can tweak on the fly. Those are all good lessons learned. So I guess I would ask you from here, what's next as we finish up?
Yeah. So we're definitely looking at trying to figure out what other services we can provide, and how can we latch on to this idea that we do pickups for compost every single week.
And you're making money on it.
And we're profitable from it. So how can we add other services that this very niche set of consumers who are willing to pay for an accessory service would also like?
Yeah.
And so we're starting to expand and figure out, are there other items, hard to recycle items? Are there anything else that you throw in your garbage? What else can we pick up? And potentially, what else can we drop off so they're ready to go into their homes?
Yeah.
But
it's funny, I think about that because you think, oh, well, compost, do I want to buy something that would be clean, like paper towels? Because the truck's got to be dirty and full of compost. How do you, take your brand, which is compost, which is a very clean brand, and we'll put links to it on the site, but like, how would you square that circle in terms of products? Because you might have some that fresh produce from the farmer's market versus compost going the other way. There's kind of an ooh factor, but also they go together.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Yeah.
How do you square that circle?
Yeah, I think, I don't know.
You don't know? That's fine.
I don't know.
We don't have to. A problem to think about.
It's a good problem.
All right. But I would suggest that you start with your brand. And if there's a brand loyalty and a brand trust, they'll accept that brand extension because they trust that you're going to be there when you say you're going to be there. You deliver what you say you're going to deliver, and you delight them. And sometimes you deliver more.
Yeah.
And do you have examples of over delivering or providing surprises?
Yeah. Speaking of over delivering, which is a great segue. One of the things that we just tried kind of as a pilot last summer that we're going to start leaning into a little bit more, is we realized there is a decent amount of our members were asking for event services. And we didn't want to do event services because they're one-off, they're hard to schedule and all these things. And we were like, what else can we provide here to appease and give our customers the same, solve this problem for them? And so we started building out event kits where on the same route that we're doing their normal collection, which is a 5-gallon bin that we pick up once a week, we would drop off a 23-gallon bin with signage explaining what composting is and what to put in this bin, and a kit for parties. And so it was all your utensils, plates, cups, napkins, anything that you might need for a small party, a dinner party or a birthday party that you would have at your home. You could order from us, and we made it free because we realized this is such a unique opportunity where our members will be over the moon that they got this free composting service where they can have their party and not worry about the waste and not worry about the cleanup. And they would be raving about us for all of the local people that are at this party. And so we started offering that. We had about 20 different events last year. And we're going to start ramping it up a little bit more. But we were trying to figure out how do we both push this and get a little bit more branding because everything was unbranded. It was just kind of a pilot. And also try to get our members to talk about us even more.
And turn it into word of mouth marketing or signups from those events if you lived in the area. That's great. That's amazing because I could use that service. What about cans? I bet you people put those damn flavored water cans half full in your bins. Tell me.
That's exactly what happened.
Start with the fire. Right? Crazy. I go to a party and they're all left around. I'm picking them up going, this is $1.50 worth of LaCroix, and half of it is drunk.
So from a can's perspective, we did realize that very quickly. People didn't know where to put their recyclables because
so compost was easy. It was everything else.
It was everything else. So we started giving an extra compostable bag that you could put right on the side of your 23-gallon garbage party can
and science and
recycling, put all these here. But
awesome.
People love the fact that they could come away from a party, which usually is such a high waste generating event, and have nothing. So we picked up all the compost the next week on their pickup. The recycling went to their recycling, and they had no trash. And we got great responses from the people that participated. And now it's about spreading.
But what you're doing there is you're taking something that's your core service and you're extending it. Not to something new, but you're extending what you already do and making it something that delights your customers. That's pretty amazing too. So adding on to the services that you're already offering and delighting your customers is pretty amazing. Giving party supplies and pickup for no charge at this point. Do you think you might charge for it at some time?
Right now, it's such a great marketing vehicle. Potentially, if we get a crazy amount of people that want to sign up, but right now,
that's so interesting. A dilemma to have: is it a marketing expense or is it a revenue generator?
Absolutely.
It's like, wow, that's an amazing thing. Anything else you're doing that's delighting your customers or surprising them?
One big change that we had about a year or two into our services. We first started by just doing the collection, and we had places that we can go drop off the compost, but we weren't bringing the compost back to people. People were wondering, hey, I have this huge garden and I compost, so I'm obviously into food. Can we get some back? And we said, we don't really have the vehicles or the capacity to do that right now, but we'd love to look into it. And so once we started working directly with a large composter that was actually not even created until 2021, we started getting some of that compost back. And the deal was we were dropping off compost for a small fee. They would process it, but they had an excess amount of compost. They didn't know how to sell it, and they didn't know where to put it.
Okay, so you're paying to that part of your supply chain, you're paying to get rid of it, drop it off. Okay.
But the huge benefit was we were getting it back for free. And so once we had the right vehicle to move that compost, we started doing compost drop-offs. And first we would have just an event where you said, hey, come pick up your compost dividend for the year. And so we would include that in the membership.
Oh, that's great.
You could come get a 5-gallon bin.
Make it feel very special.
Make community events out of it, get people talking and excited, and members can meet each other. But then ultimately people wanted even more. And some members were saying, hey, can I get a cubic yard? Can I get 2 cubic yards? And so we started a program 2 springs ago that was sign up in early spring, late winter, February, March.
Yeah.
And at some point in the next few months, along our route using reverse logistics, once we dropped off the compost, we would build a truck back up with fresh compost and bring it back to our members.
Wow.
And we started offering that and realizing this is such a great way to do more than just compost pickups.
Yeah, well, we're closing the loop.
It's closing the loop and making us circular.
Yeah.
And so now we even sell the memberships as circular organics memberships.
Wow.
And so
you're refining your brand as well based on customer input and your ability to work it together.
And that last piece to really close that loop is we even started a community seed bank. So people got that compost, and some of them were like, oh, I'd love to get compost, but I don't really know what to do with it. We're like, you can put it in your flowers, you can put it in a small garden. We're like, oh, well, seeds is the last thing that you need. And so if you're a Hudson Compost member, not only can you put your scraps in the right place, but you can also get that compost back and grow more food with the seeds that we provide.
And that's all included in your membership.
It's all included in that.
So you're making the membership better with minimal cost to you.
Yes. And focusing on how can we offer the most amount of value to our customers without having to increase our prices and with not having to increase our expenses either. How can we be innovative?
Ironically, right now, I think our trash is being picked up while we're having this conversation. Oh my God, I love it. So what? You know what is kind of funny? That's the sound effects. Although your truck isn't that loud. So finally, I guess I'd like to say, you talked about this as a cost-effective cocktail when you don't have a lot of money. And I think you're doing really cost-effective marketing, which is amazing, seeing how your company has grown and where it's going. So here's to delicious cost-effective cocktails. I have a feeling this is the first time I've ever had a bee's knees.
And you did a great job.
And it actually seems healthy. Honey syrup, lemon juice, and some gin.
There we go. Yeah. Cheers. Cheers. Thank you, Doug.
Thanks for listening to this episode of SpeakEasy. I hope you enjoyed our conversation or learned something from it. And I have a favor to ask. Please share us, like us, leave your comments. You know the game. And most of all, if you have any guests you'd like to suggest, please let us know. The full transcript and show notes are available at catalysis.com/speakeasy. Keep asking, keep listening, and most of all, keep learning.